Hey, somebody's got to win their second one. Who's it going to be? This is a little different for you guys that have tuned in before in the past. Welcome to the First Down Magazine podcast. This is a collaboration with Athletes Forum podcast, but it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And it is game week. It is ELF Championship week, and I'm excited to, end the season kind of like how we started the season. So we started the season with the insiders. So it's time that we end them with the insiders as well. So Alex Malchow and Matt Bresington, welcome to the First Down Magazine podcast, again in collaboration. But fellas, what's going on? How's everyone doing?
That intro got me hyped up. I'm ready for it. It's going to be a damn good game.
Happy to be back, chopping it up with the boys. No better time than championship week.
Oh yeah.
This is we're like the bussing with the boys of the European football here. Just talking ball, but hey, this is championship week in the European League of Football. The Rhein Fire versus the Vienna Vikings is definitely a great week, a great time of year, and we're excited. We're gonna dive into the championship game a little bit, talk a bit about what to expect, matchups. We got some prop bets that we usually do this time of year, and we're gonna pick some winners. All right, and then to end the show, we're gonna talk about what to expect heading into ELF season 5 and the off season, and what's maybe a couple things we want to talk about. So, fellas, you guys ready?
Let's get it. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Well, let's get right to it and break it down. We have a great matchup coming this Sunday with the Rhein Fire and the Vienna Vikings. And, what's even better about this matchup is that we're going to get the first ever two-time ELF champion, right? So one of these teams is going to be a two-time ELF champion, obviously Vienna winning in their second season, Fire winning in the fourth. We see right here how the playoff has broken down. And these two teams, some of the best organizations, not just in the ELF, but in all of Europe, have officially punched their ticket into the championship game. So let's go ahead and start breaking it down. And one of the things that I wanted to dive into first is the QB matchup. The QB matchup is definitely going to be a great one to watch, great one to break down. We got two of the top quarterbacks in the ELF. When you look at this matchup, we have Jadrian Clark, who is a OG in the ELF. He's someone that's been to the championship game 3 times, right? 2 with the Fire, 1 with the Hamburg Sea Devils back in year 1, and he's going up against his counterpart in the Ben Holmes, who in Europe standards is considered quote unquote a rookie, but he does have international experience play just in regards in general. So let's start with the mayor of Ben BP and Alex Malchow. What do you think about this matchup, my friend?
Yeah, this is one of the better QB matchups of the whole season. Really excited to see this matchup. I think maybe in the future, ELF can sprinkle in some more interconference games moving forward, because we missed this in the regular season, right? 2 premier quarterbacks going against each other. And, I know my guy Ben Holmes is going to have continue his great season. I feel like Matt and I are kind of on the playground and we're having like a my dad can beat your dad moment, But Ben Holmes, he played, maybe saved his best for last in the semifinal. Showed off the wheels. That came out of nowhere. 60-yard touchdown run. And I think he finished the game with like 450 total yards and 6 touchdowns. Absolutely crazy stat line. Now he faces the best defense he's faced yet. Jadrian Clark, again, facing a tough defense. So we're going to see 2 great passes out there for sure. And maybe it's a race to 30.
Hey, if it's a race to 30, we're definitely getting our money's worth right here.
Absolutely.
When you look at Ben, though, and everyone talks about it, obviously the conference, who they played, all this stuff. You mentioned it. We saw a different side of Ben Holmes in the playoffs that we really haven't seen all season. That's him using his feet. One thing that I do want to point out, though, he's about to go up against maybe the best safety tandem that we've seen in the league, in Marlo Franklin and Amari Williams. When you look at Ben going up against those two at safety, what do you think about his matchup there?
Yeah, it's tough. I think he's got to make like the outside throws. It's going to be tough to go like over the middle with Amari Williams, Preefman, Marshawn Franklin, two amazing defensive backs. So, if he goes over the middle, I think maybe go to Florian Bierbaumer. But while Ben Holmes is the hero, and I'm always touting MVP, this team is built around Kari Pyre, and he's got to keep him on schedule. So really, I think not to sound cliche, but it's going to come down to the trenches a lot as well.
We love some trench talk. Trench talk, man. Both options do have great offensive line, and they've been able to keep these quarterbacks upright for the most part. On the other side of that, you have Jadrian Clark, who, again, I've mentioned it, is playing with house money. This team has not really had to rely on him throughout the whole season. More so, a lot more with the run game. But Matt, talk to me about Mr. JC himself.
I mean, it's been a weird season for him, right? If start of the year wasn't starting off too hot, kind of threw a lot more interceptions than what we're used to, considering last season how amazing he was, an MVP, rightfully so. And if you look at it, like the numbers alone, he's throwing like less passes than pretty much everyone. He's throwing less passes than Mangle, less passes than Wheat, less passes than Aiken, like all these numbers, because he's had the monster that is Glenn Tonga in the backfield, so he's not really needed to. So you could argue that he's kind of saving his arm maybe for the playoffs. He has been definitely on the later half of this year. He's been tearing it up. You look at those numbers as well. He's got 67% accuracy, so he's been accurate. And this is a Vienna defense that is quite young. Like, they are not a very experienced team. Ben Straight is young. Swankor is young. Talitza is young. Even the Americans, Coleman is like just out of university. Like, he's, I think, 2 years removed from being at Elon. The only real experience that guys they have are on the D line and Xavier Edwards. Like, and that's I think is going to show. Jadrian, like we've talked about before, has been to this dance before. He's been with house money. He's the MVP. He's probably got the better offensive weapons in front of him and the other offensive line if you look at them like for like. And he's also got probably the MVP behind him as well. So I feel he would be very safe. Like, I don't know how he's feeling, but I imagine he doesn't feel too scared when you've got that wall of like Ryan Fire in front of him. Like, it's an incredible offensive line, and he's been so much better in the second half of the year than he has been in the first. So I feel like he's on for a good one.
What do we say about Jadrian? 4 seasons in the ELF, 3 championship appearances. His the only time he hasn't made it was when he hasn't really played a full season and he was signed midway, with the Ryan Fire. This guy's making his 3rd ELF championship experience. What do we say about Jadrian and what he means to the league, not just the Ryan Fire, but what he means to the league and the success that he has had, not just in the ELF but in all of Europe, as you can add this to his resume.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a friend of mine, so of course I'm going to be raising him. But he's been, like you say, he's been around the block for 10 years. He was with New Yorker, he was with the Cougars, he was with
the Vikings.
He was with Unicorns, he was with Vikings. Like, he's been everywhere. So he's not just on the ELF probably route. I know we talked about Mount Rushmore before, and he's probably on that, but he's probably also on the European version because he's been in all these leagues. He's won now a championship. He's got the MVP. I know some people say that he's only been most successful. He's had his super teams around him, but you got to win these games. You can't just bad quarterback's not going to be able to perform even in a great scheme sometimes. So I think that he's as close to we have as a modern Hall of Famer. Granted, it's only 4 years into the league. Hall of Fame I think is maybe a bit premature, but coming down the line, I think he's probably going to be in that conversation as first ballot guy.
Yeah, I think Matt's totally right. I'll just jump in here. When I listen to the NFL Hall of Fame, one thing they say is, can you tell the story of the league with this person or without this person? And you cannot tell the story of ELF without Jadrian Clark. So hats off to him. And we'll see. I mean, he has a chance to really add to his legacy on Sunday.
Most definitely.
I'm so stealing that line, by the way.
Hey, you can definitely
go for it.
We share info. Hey, I before playoffs started, I presented this question. in a video on Athletes One podcast. Who do you trust? And it was breaking down obviously the quarterbacks of every team that were in the playoffs. And now we're at the championship game, and we're talking quarterbacks, and obviously the two that have been some of the best throughout the season are now in the championship. Without disclosing like your picks, or in this game right here, who would you trust? Who would you trust the most to make that one play? Not necessarily that's going to win the game, but that one play pressure moment to make the throw.
Man, it's tough. I really think both these quarterbacks are excellent. Ben Holmes has given you no reason not to trust him. Whenever they needed him in the clutch, he came up. And the same with Jadrian. I mean, it's like these guys are both studs. Yeah, I mean, I'll go with Ben Holmes because I'm gonna ride the train to the last stop now.
I'm gonna go with Jadrian because in the playoffs he's first. Obviously, we talked about how often he's been in a championship game, but he's played 6 playoff games, which I believe is more than anyone else at quarterback position. Certainly, he's got around the same accuracy. He's went 67 this year. Playoffs he's went 66, so minus 1%, but it's over the course of 3 years. 7 for 2 touchdowns to interception rates. He's been successful. Ben Holmes, I said in the preseason, I was unsure how he stepped up with this competition. That was my big thing. Was like, whenever he stepped up, he hadn't done too, fantastic. This year he's been rather brilliant. And then in the playoffs, he was out like against Paris. He was sublime. Like it was kind of a perfect performance. So he stepped up great. He's definitely put a lot of the questions that I had around his game to bed. And I think they'll both play well. I think either of the quarterbacks is going to have a bad game in this game. I don't see a way that either of them play poorly.
Yeah, it just makes this game more exciting when you have quarterbacks that can sling the rock and are in control of the offense, are able to, make the throw, make the plays, and have the experience as well. So we're definitely in for a good one. As we get more into like the game now, let me ask you this, Brez, what was your initial thoughts when we first saw that we were going to get this matchup?
See, I'm going with fire because, like, just conversationally, because it's Glenn, right? It's all about how the hell do you stop this 30 touchdown machine that's running up the middle of 6 yards to carry. It's hard. And then, of course, with the youth, like, they're a smaller linebacker core. I'll get to it later. Like, Swanko's like 5'10", 5'11", 205, 206. Tulitza, about the same, a little bit bulkier. Lalo is naturally a defensive back. They've moved into a nickel position. He's like 6'3", 215, but again, he's not a natural linebacker. So, you've got questions. So he gets that second level. How are Vienna going to deal with that? And it's something that I don't know if I want to say that we saw the Surge kind of do well with it because he did, of course, a few fumbles. What I've taught, I think Huller looks like he's hurt his wrist from a visionary standpoint, but that was a big thing, is that they were able to make him force fumbles. And that's something we hadn't seen at all in the regular season. So that's going to be the big thing, is can you get that ball out of Glenn Tonga's hands?
What about you, Alex? What was your first initial thoughts when you saw we were going to get Fire Vikings?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, those semifinal games were just amazing, especially the Surge.
Great game.
Great games. So we kind of knew either way we're going to get a really good matchup. As my stuff is falling down behind me. Anyway, the matchup, I think Matt brought it up, like the box of the Vikings. Can they stop Glenn? Has anyone been able to stop Glenn, even in the rain? The Surge, he still had 100-something yards? It's going to be really tough to stop Glenn. I think the only weakness maybe the Rhein Fire have is right in the interior of their line. I know Weinstock didn't have his best game in the rain. And that's actually a strength, I would say, for the Vikings. Thomas Schaefer, big nose guard. If he can play his best game, it could be a key for the Vikings.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on that too. They sent a lot of blitzes up the A's and B's.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if JP's back too, Bombeck. I'm not sure of the status of his injury, but having the extra week off and not really playing in the semis, it'd be interesting to see if he's able to contribute at all in this matchup as well. When I first thought about this matchup, there's a couple things. One, once the Vikings won, immediately got excited. We're getting a matchup we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Never seen, at least this season, in the ELF. So that was exciting. Nothing against Paris, Fire, but obviously I'm always intrigued about, watching new matchups. Obviously, Ravens, Paris, that was a classic. In the semifinals, they were classics as well too. So those are good matchups. Another thing that caught my attention when finding out these teams are going to play each other is, in a way, the Vikings are familiar with the Fire, and at least against the Fire offense, because they played against it twice 2 years ago against Barcelona against Andrew Weidinger. So they kind of know or have an idea what they might get, just different athletes on the field. That obviously that presents different problems or how to go about those. So that would be interesting. I also think we're getting the best Vikings team that we've seen, and this is even including the championship team that they had 2 years ago. I think this team has more weapons. I think they could be a little bit more explosive. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go against that Fire defense that we briefly talked about. So instantly when we found out we were going to get Vikings Fire, I immediately got excited to break it down, and excited to just talk about it. And one of the things that we wanted to dive into here is matchups, because matchups make fights. We all know that. We all know it's not necessarily the best team that wins. It depends on their opponent and who they're going against. Alex, I want you to give me a matchup to watch in this game.
All right, matchup to watch: Florian Bierbaumer, Marius Kenzie. Florius Bierbaumer, beat the linebackers at the second level. I just put a Marius Kenzie, the first guy I thought of. I think Bierbaumer could play a huge role in this game. He's the mismatch that I see. Okay, this guy can win consistently, maybe against the Rhein Fire defense, where there's really not a lot of places where I can say that, right? Because that defense is so stacked. So maybe he's the key to the Vikings scoring a lot of points on Sunday.
It's interesting you say that, because at the same time, when I was thinking about matchups to watch in this game and how this game might go, I said Flamor Seaman and Bierbaumer.
Yeah.
The reason why is because I think Kenzie might be playing more in the box. I think Flamor is someone who might have a chance to line up on Bierbaumer more. But at the same time, it depends how they call the game and their offensive schemes. But all in all, I think the common denominator is who's going to guard Bierbaumer, because as of late he's been on a little bit of a tear and making plays, and he was hurt earlier in the year. So I guess the common denominator between you and Alex is like Bierbaumer, who's going to guard him? Maybe Matt Bresington might have the answer for that, or he may go in a different direction. Why don't you give us a matchup to watch this game?
I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going to go to outsides. I'm going to go switch the offense and defense. I'm going to go for McKnight and also with Weapon X. I think Xavier Edwards and him, that's going to have a matchup to watch. Both two very quick, speedy, fast, athletic receivers and DB. Xavier Edwards more experienced, and McKnight, as we saw in ELF Live, is not a fan of some of the DBs that he's played. Maybe a little bit lackadaisical, coming in a little bit, easy. But there's so many, I could go on and on and on. Obviously, matchups and scouting is my thing. So, even Aaron Donkor playing against Milanovic, that's going to be such a good matchup. You got Hugo Kagles against Matt Daltrey in the interior line. Harlan, who the hell's going to stop Harlan Kofi? Hazard is a good corner, but Harlan's different. He's so physically strong. I did so many different interesting matchups. So Ben Strait as well. He could be someone that comes in. Yeah. They narrow down this box. I think they're going to have to do that against. But then if you do that, you risk Jay, who probably, I think some people would argue, has the biggest arm. So those safeties against Jay, going to be interesting to see how that works out. There's a ton. There's honestly, I think every single, you could probably make about 50 combinations of just Bierbaumer alone. So the fact you can do it with both teams offensively and defensively, I think is it makes such an interesting final. I think I might be wrong. I feel like this is the best two teams we've ever seen of these teams. I know that sounds a bit mental considering Rhein Fire last year. They're the best defense in the league this year. You could argue they would lock up last year's team, and this is we and you, Jamal, agreed that Vienna is better this year and they weren't the championship teams. This is crazy.
Yeah. I almost want to say we're gonna see fireworks, but that would be discrediting how good these defenses are too. So
Yeah.
it's we got some prop bets. We'll see what you guys think on those topics. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you could point to a lot of different directions. You could point to like Ben Holmes, as I mentioned, going up against Amari and Marlo Shawn. You could point to the trenches up front. The Vikings run a very unique. I think they're a 3-3-5 stack defense. Sometimes they'll go 3-2-6 with more DBs on the field, but at the same time, you got to have some beef because otherwise they're just going to run the ball right down you. And I would say this year, this is Andrew Weidinger's best running efforts because he's mostly been the guy that's going to kill you through the air. Barcelona 2 years ago, Ryan Fryer last year, and the best back he's had is probably the best back the league has ever had. Yes, I'm saying it, Matt, even though I'm a Madre fan. The best back he's had is probably the best back the league has ever had in Glenn.
Come on, Jamal.
You saw how he's able to utilize those weapons. We'll see.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, Weidinger, I feel like every week he's got some great new plays. I mean, that tight end leaking out in the semi was exactly what they needed. It's really like he's a magician with the play call sheet. It'll be interesting to see what he's got for Sunday.
Even as a defensive player, I can appreciate a good offensive scheme. So shout out to Andrew. I know he pays attention sometimes, but let's we went into some matchups. I want to talk about some guys that could be X factors or difference makers in the game. So Brez, talk to me about a guy who can make a difference in this game that maybe we're not thinking about, or maybe lost sight of them throughout this matchup. Give me a guy you're thinking about.
Oof, I just made 2 videos on this, so I'm well prepared. I might go a little bit outside the box. I'm gonna go for Haaland because there's been a lot of secondary DBs and a lot of teams have that locked in defensive back core. Vienna, and again, I want to kind of take a bit of an L with the defensive backs of the Vienna Vikings. They're very good, but Haaland for me is better than quite a lot of the American receivers that we've had this year. And that might sound over crazy, but fantastic blocker, big physical. We've seen him coming in the semifinal. He was good there. He had that big drop, but he's also been injured quite a lot this season. So he could be an X factor, or he could be maybe a little bit more of a shadow player where he just kind of comes in, takes a little bit of pressure off of someone like McKnight, forces the defense to respect him. But he's such a good receiver. He might be the most balanced receiver in the entire league because he can do everything. He can do everything. I fully want to do an evaluation on him too because he's just such a good player. I don't really know who they've got to move someone like Lalo on to try and deal size with size, to try and beat size with speed. It's an interesting one that I'm not entirely sure how they're going to manage to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings don't play a lot of man, but they can when they have to. Even so, if you're assuming X is going to be on McKnight, if they do go man, who covers Kofi, right? Because you even if you are playing man and you're scared of him in the pass game, Kofi will block somebody into the stands. Yeah. Kofi is a low key dog, so he's definitely a difference maker. What about you, Alex? Who you got?
All right, so we're talking about receivers. I'll bring up another receiver here. I might butcher his name here. Kimi Lanainema, the 2022 ELF Championship MVP. Caught 6 passes for 120 yards. He threw a touchdown in that championship. When Coach Chris Kalaikai talks in the press conferences, my thoughts are not on how's Kimmy going to do this weekend. To me, he's like a guy I forget about. But Coach Kalaikai brings him up constantly, and I think that's for a reason. The guy is really underrated, makes great possession catches. He can stretch the field. He's faster than he looks, and he's got championship pedigree. So we got 2 receivers who had coming out parties in the championship game for our sleepers here.
It almost makes me think who's next up, right? Who's that next receiver that's going to shine bright in the biggest game of in all European football?
Could be Torre,
Hey, it could be.
Yeah, good point.
Or we could go to the defensive side and talk some DBs. And my guy, who I think has to be a difference maker, is Tony Anderson.
Ooh,
Tony Anderson, with the amount of weapons the Vikings have, and the fact that the Surge are literally just going at him in that game, that semifinal game, I believe he's got to step up and have a turnaround game heading into the championship. He's going to get the opportunity to be on a Reese Horn, a Florian Beerbaumer, or one of those guys. And how do they defend him? Well, that's something we're going to have to wait to see and find out. But I think Tony Anderson's got to have a little bit of a bounce back game. They've got him to be that cover nickel guy. They also got him to help out in the run game. So I'm interested to see how Tony Anderson performs. And not official, but if they get Jordan Bullock back, then that presents a whole nother problem.
Now we're talking.
yeah.
I think Tony Anderson's got to be – I'm challenging Tony Anderson to be the difference maker in this game. What are your thoughts about that, you two offensive guys?
Yeah, I'll just – sorry. Go ahead.
I play DB.
I just wanted to say I think Tony Anderson, he looked timid in the semis. He looked injured, honestly. He didn't look healthy. So I hope that he gets healthy for this game because we want to see the best teams battle it out. Other than that, I think, Kari might be used in the passing game a bit more. The Ryan Fire, who knows? They pulled out that tight end, Souderland. He didn't do much all season. Then he catches the clutch touchdown. So whoever Whitinger draws it up for, that's who I'll pick. Yeah.
He could be the guy that takes flow because he plays everywhere. If you look at his Raiders tape, his Galaxy tape, he's literally played corner, started nickel, started safety, played a low linebacker.
He's big.
And he's played everywhere, so he could be the guy that takes flow because there's not a lot of people can do that length, and he's at 6'3", 6'4", defensive back, crazy. So I think he might be the guy. But speed of Bua, if he's fit and healthy, the speed of someone like Johannes Schultz, who's also another speedy receiver. Torre is obviously very fast. Horn's obviously very quick rather than fast. He's fast, don't get me wrong, but his route running is so smooth that it's hard to really keep up with that sharpness. So I think the defensive backs of Rhein are overall going to have a few issues, outside of the safeties, because they got two Germans that usually play on the outsides with Tillman, who had a fantastic game in the last game. Obviously his breakout game with that 2 interception forced fumble. So maybe they'll be wary of that. If they try him too much, then they could kind of repeat the same mistakes that the Surge made.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely there's matchups all across the board here as we're breaking it down. Again, you know how I always say on Athletes Forum Podcast, drop a comment, let us know. We'll interact with you and we'll see what we think. But we're not necessarily gambling degenerates here, but we do like to do some prop bets around this game. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. A couple over unders and see what the fellas think. Again, drop a comment, let us know what you think. Follow along throughout the week. It'll be posted on the stories. Don't forget a chance to vote and join in. But first bet I want to go with. All right, let's go to Alex for this one. Over under on Glenn Tunga rushing yards, 120. Someone who's been averaging 130 all season, but Vikings have only given up average about 105. Does he get over 120 rushing in this game?
First of all, Jamal, I think you sent me a 31 leg parlay the other day. So, I don't know what your degenerate status is.
I may be the only degenerate here.
Oh, you're not alone. It's crazy that the over-under is 120, right? That just shows you how amazing his season has been. But you know what? I was listening to some throwback music the other day. James Brown says, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. Right now, Glenn Tonga is the boss. I don't think Vikings defense has enough to pay the boss.
No, I agree. I think he's going over 120. I mean, he's also not scored in well over a year. So you could even add the 120 and 1 touchdown to that, and it would also still be reasonable. A below average game even still for him.
All right. So we're going over the 120 for Glenn.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over 150.
Sheesh. All right. Let's go to the defensive side. We got the leader in turnovers in this game, Ben Street. Over under half a turnover. Fumble, interception, doesn't matter. Does he get a turnover in this game? Brez, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna go
Okay.
with no. I just finished my Ben Straight eval, so I've been watching a lot of his tape. I'm gonna go with no. A lot of his interceptions are quite instinctual. Like he'll be able to catch these tip drills and whatnot. And I don't know if they're going to be deflected. I think some of these balls are going to be caught. I think sometimes the players have the awareness to kind of, and Jadrian has the awareness to put the ball where only the receivers can get it. There's not a lot of tips that happen with Ryan. A couple of drops, obviously, but I'm gonna go with under. Depends how much he's involved with Glenn though, with that maybe injury if he's fumbling the ball 3 times in one game. That's a tough one. I'm gonna still go with under. I don't think he'll get a turnover. I think it might be close. Maybe another turnover on someone else, but I don't think Ben Straight's gonna get one.
Or maybe he gets the turnover. So we'll just have to wait and see. Alex, defensive
Straight
line.
cash, homie. Over.
Over. All right. All right. Let's go to the defensive line now. We got Aaron Doncourt, 1.5 sacks in this game. Over or under?
I'm going under. Under. Holub and Milanovic. You can't really name me. Maybe Holland Hawk and Sven Benneback is probably the only 2 best tackle duo. I'm going under. Aaron Doncourt's outstanding, second half of the year especially. And he might get one. He might even just tittle on that half sack, but I don't think he's going to get over 1 half sack.
All right.
Yeah, I'll take the Vikings O-line to keep Ben Holmes upright in this one. Yeah, I'll take the under. By the way, Aaron Doncourt, when he started the season, he had like a 5X jersey, no swag at all. I'm glad he's upgraded.
Yeah.
And I hope to see him, in full kit, looking good for the championship on Sunday.
Most definitely. Well, Alex, you just spoke about him, so let's talk about him. Keep the man upright. Ben Holmes, over under 225 passing yards.
I'll let you go first. Let me think about this one.
He's averaging 216.
This is disrespectful. I'm about to get up and leave.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, he's going full ride.
Yeah, I'll take the over. I think he's got to throw for at least 280 if the Vikings are
really. Wow.
280.
Yeah. I think the they're not going to be able to run the ball for 150 yards against the defense of the Rhein Fire.
It's also
go ahead.
It's also going to be hard to throw deep shots like they were doing against Paris too, though.
Sure, man.
They got spin. They got spin. They got length and speed in the Fire secondary. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll attack them.
But we got Ben Holmes, so we're good to go.
I'm looking at Ben Holmes' like game stats. He's only got under 225 like once in the game that he actually played. I'm not counting the 2 games he got injured. So like it would suggest he would go over, but he's also never played DBs. It's maybe as good as Ryan Fires. But in the last few games, he's been going crazy. He got 14 and 1. If you even count the game before that, he's got like 21 touchdowns and 2 picks. So like the feeling that he had to have a pick to get started is kind of maybe wearing away a little bit. I'm gonna go with over. I'm not gonna say nothing crazy like Alex is, but I'm gonna go for like a sort of maybe 250 to 280 kind of range, but conservatively.
All right. Well, let's go over to the next one, and we got about 4 more prop bets. We're gonna speed through these a little bit. On the defensive side, Morris Kinsey, over under 9 tackles. 9 tackles.
I'm gonna go over. They're gonna be running a lot with Carey, so I'm gonna go over on that one.
Okay.
Me too.
Over. Okay. All right. Let's. We talked about these 2 earlier in the or at least one of them. Who has more receiving yards, Kofi or Torre?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Good question.
That's such a good. I'm gonna go with Torre, but just because I think Hines gonna be blocking quite a bit. But I'm gonna go with Torre. Yeah, that's a really fucking good question.
Hey, locker room, join in. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ben Holmes, Torre as well.
Torre, all right. So that means you think he stretches the field. All right. What about this one? Who has a bigger special teams impact, McKnight or Edwards?
Got to be Edwards, man. Come on. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's got to come back, do his thing. He's balled out in the championship before. he's been a little like quiet, like, hey, where's X at? This year.
Mm.
Maybe he comes and reminds everyone real quick, that he's still
Yeah,
him.
but McKnight's like what? He was a really good special teams player in the XFL, though. I'm gonna go with McKnight.
We see where their hearts lie. Let's just say that. Right? We see where their hearts lie. Yeah. All right. Last one. Total points in this game. Are we going over or under 66.5?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna go under because it's gonna be 66.
All right.
Okay. I mean, Vienna averaged 38 a game. Ryan probably averaged more, maybe around that.
Just so you know, both these defenses defensively average 14 points a game. Give them up.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go with over. I think I'm gonna go with over, but like just a bit. But I'm gonna go with over.
All right. Well, good. That was a little bit of our prop bets, and again, we'll post them out throughout the week. It'll be on Athletes Forum or First Down Magazine, one or the other. But we'll present the poll. Let us know what you guys think. But now it's time. It's time we make the picks. But before we make the picks, let's remind you guys who's playing in this game.
And the Vienna Vikings, ELF champions 2022. The Rhein Fire, victorious and unbeaten in ELF season 2023.
Well, here we go. It's about time we make our picks for this game. I want you guys to give me who you think is going to win. I want you guys to give me a score, and I want you guys to give me who your MVP is going to be. So, with that being said, since we started the show going with Alex Malchow, Matt Bresington, you're on the clock, my friend. Who you got winning this game?
All right. I'm going to go Rhein Fire win. I went over 66.5, so I'm going to go for 45-32. And MVP is going to be Glenn. He's going to sweep the seasonal awards. I think he's just too dominant, unstoppable this year. Ryan have got the possible 2 MVPs in the backfield. I think they repeat. We see the start of a potential dynasty.
So the Rhein Fire are the champions, according to Matt Bresington. Alex Malchow, you're up, my friend.
In preparation for this game, I spent a lot of time watching film. I'm not talking about game film. I'm talking about a classic movie called The Matrix. And there's a scene where Morpheus chose the blue pill and the red pill. Do you want to go back to Wonderland, or do you want to see the rabbit hole reality? The reality is the Rhein Fire's run is over. The Vikings are going to win 34-28 with Ben VP hoisting the trophy as MVP.
MVP hosting the trophy as MVP. You know what? Kind of knew we were heading in this direction, so I knew I had to be the tiebreaker here. I would say this, looking at these two teams, the matchup is great. When we just broke it down, we talked about this. You could go in so many different ways. For me, when I look at the Vienna Vikings and you look at Torre, Kimmy, a possible Jordan Bua, Florian Bierbaumer, Reese Horn, Kari in the backfield, and then their defense has made me skeptical sometimes because they always start off strong. And usually in the second half, they usually start giving up points. And then on Rhein Fire, ever since that loss against Madrid, they've been on a tear since. Similar to year one Frankfurt Galaxy when they lost to Hamburg Sea Devils week 1 and they went out and won the championship. Is it possible we see another run? All right, Glenn giving the best ball he's had. Jadrian on the field. There's a lot of former Hamburg Sea Devils on the Rhein Fire. now that I'm talking about it, it'll be great to see the Sea Devils back at some point. Anyway, for me, I think I'm rocking with the Vienna Vikings. I think the ELF bleeds in year 4. I think when I just look at the weapons, how do you defend that offense? All right, I think offensive coordinator Max Summer has the opportunity to put a couple guys in conflict. Benda really doesn't even have to attack downfield. Even if you attack the corners or you could attack the crosser house of the linebackers, there's a mismatch at some point. And I think Ben finds it. I think the Vikings win it. I'm going with Reese Horn as the MVP for this game. And the Vienna Vikings are the first 2-time ELF champion.
We need to score.
So, score of this game, I'm gonna go with 34-28, Vienna.
Cool.
Great pick, Jamal. Great pick.
34-28, Vienna. So
You wanted the red pill.
So, thank you all for tuning in. It's been a great episode on the First Down Magazine podcast in collaboration with Athletes Forum Podcast. Real quick, because I said we were going to talk about it real quick, but before we head out and we head into the offseason, I want you guys to give me a team or one thing you want to see heading into the offseason. And since I'll give you guys an idea, I'll start it off first. I would love to see, obviously, Helvetic. I'm rooting for them. But I would love to see the Hamburg get back to being one of the top teams in the league. I think them being as one of the original OGs. To see them fall off the way they did doesn't really sit well. And Helvetic's never had success, so I can't really say that. Hopefully they do this all season. I'd like to see Hamburg at least get back to where they were. And then my message for people in the offseason is don't overthink it. Some of your top performers this year were guys who played in the league and have had success. Reese Horn, Tori Robinson, Malik Stanley. Don't overthink it. Get the guys that perform well. So that'll be my advice heading into the offseason. Let's go with Alex. What you got next?
I'm just going to say, I think I said this last year again. Give me a London ELF team. That's what we want.
Oh!
I don't know if I'm going to get it, but that's what I'm pleading for.
I mean, I want a more competitive East. I want the Panthers and Thunder. We had high hopes for both of those teams. Panthers especially. Yeah. They kind of let us down. Like in my preseason, I know preseason power rankings are a rough one, but I have Vienna like 7, but we're not going to talk about that. And then the Panthers were really high up. We expect them to be really good. Obviously, they had other quarterback issues. That's what I mainly want. We've not ever really had a Panthers team. They've just had one quarterback starting the whole team. They've always changed their quarterbacks. Even last year with Matty Ice, they had someone else in, and then they cut them like a week before the year, and they had Matty Ice bring in. So, that's what I want from them. I think if I had to give words of advice, it'd be homegrowns, man. It's all in homegrowns. These teams are like, we need to get the best available A receiver because he played, or look at Barcelona with Eva Lewis. He played at Louisville. He had an NFL practice squad trial. He was kind of mid because you didn't give him any homegrowns around him, and Barcelona had their own issues. But homegrowns are a big part of it, and I think that could be transferable to most of the. I mean, look at Czech Republic. They've got an AFL champion. Yet the ELF team is 1-11. That's why I'd like to see them two maybe come together as well. So I got a lot of high hopes for 2025.
Most definitely. It's going to be exciting. I'm sure we'll be back and talking about, signings, and we've already seen some with some organizations and coaches being resigned. Raiders coach, he's back for 2 more years, supposedly. We know how that goes. So, we'll see. But thank you all for tuning in. I will have a quick reaction of the ELF championship game with a special guest. Will not give his name, but tune in. We're going to talk about the game, break it down, and I'm excited to see how everything pans out. This is the last episode for the Insiders. We should have did more, but that was probably my fault. Last episode for the Insiders this season, and yeah, we're going into the offseason after this game. Everybody tune in, subscribe. Thank you all. And until next time.